Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the weathered straw sandals of a samurai farmer in feudal Japan, where the morning mist clings to terraced rice fields like silk curtains, and the distant sound of temple bells mingles with the gentle splash of water wheels turning in ancient rhythm. You can almost smell the earthy dampness of freshly tilled soil and feel the weight of a katana at your side as you prepare for another day of quiet duty in a world where honor and harvest intertwine like the roots of bamboo. You probably won't survive the sheer mundane repetition of medieval agricultural life, where excitement peaks at successfully transplanting seedlings without your back giving out completely. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight and what time it is in your corner of the world, so drop that in the comments below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake before dawn in your modest dwelling, the paper screens of your home filtering the faintest hint of pre-sunrise light into soft geometric patterns across the tatami mats beneath you. The air carries the coolness of early morning, that particular crispness that speaks of dew forming on rice stalks, and the promise of another day's work ahead. Your futon, simple and functional, has served its purpose through the night, and you fold it with practiced efficiency, storing it in the wooden chest that holds your few possessions. The ritual of morning preparation begins as it has for countless days before. You move through your small home with quiet purpose, your feet finding familiar paths across the woven mats. The wooden beams above you creak softly with the settling of the night, a sound as comforting as it is constant. Your morning ablutions are simple affairs, performed with the same attention to detail that governs every aspect of your life. Water from the ceramic basin is cool against your skin as you wash your face and hands, preparing yourself for the day's labors. Your clothing hangs precisely where you left it the evening before. The hakama trousers, indigo-dyed and sturdy, slide over your legs with familiar ease. The kozoed undergarment, white and clean, provides a layer of comfort between your skin and the outer garments. Over this, you don the hakori jacket, its muted brown fabric speaking to your practical station in life. These are not the elaborate silks of court nobles, but they are well made and maintained with the care that reflects your character. The morning meal awaits your attention in the small kitchen area of your home. Rice, of course, forms the foundation of your breakfast, as it does for most meals throughout your day. The grain has been carefully prepared the evening before, soaked and ready for the brief cooking process that will transform it into sustenance. You measure the water with practiced precision, adding just enough to create the proper texture. As the rice cooks over the small fire, you prepare the accompanying dishes that will provide variety and nutrition to your morning meal. Miso soup, that cornerstone of Japanese cuisine, warms in a small pot beside the rice. The fermented soybean paste dissolves into the hot water, creating a broth that carries both comfort and nourishment. Into this base, you add small pieces of tofu, their pale cubes bobbing gently in the amber liquid. A few thin slices of green onion provide color and a mild sharpness that awakens the palate. The soup's aroma rises in delicate wisps of steam, carrying with it the promise of warmth and satisfaction. Pickled vegetables, prepared during the previous harvest season, add their tangy contribution to your morning meal. The cabbage, daikon radish, and cucumber, have been transformed through time and salt into something both familiar and distinct from their original forms. Their bright flavors will cut through the mild richness of the rice and soup, providing the kind of balanced nutrition that sustains a person through long hours of physical labor. As you eat, you observe the gradual lightening of the sky through the paper screens of your windows. The world outside begins its own daily awakening, and you can hear the distant sounds of your neighbors beginning their own morning routines. A rooster crows from somewhere in the village, its call answered by others in a chain of sound that spreads across the settlement like ripples on a pond. The familiar cadence of these morning sounds provides a rhythm to your meal, marking the passage of time as surely as any timepiece. Your katana rests in its designated place, the lacquered scabbard gleaming dully in the morning light. Even as a farmer, your samurai heritage requires that you maintain your weapons with the same attention you give to your farming tools. The sword represents not just your martial capability, but your connection to a tradition of service and honor that extends back through generations. After your meal, you take a moment to inspect the weapon, ensuring that no moisture has accumulated on the blade, that the fittings remain secure, and that the cutting edge maintains its proper geometry. The ritual of sword maintenance is as meditative as it is practical. You draw the blade partially from its scabbard, examining the steel for any signs of rust or damage. The metal gleams with the particular luster that comes from proper care and regular attention. You run a clean cloth along the spine of the blade, removing any dust or moisture that might have accumulated overnight. The habaki, the small metal collar that secures the blade in its scabbard, receives similar attention, as do the other fittings that make up the complete weapon system. This daily maintenance serves multiple purposes beyond the obvious practical concerns. It connects you to your martial training, reminding your hands and mind of the weight and balance of the weapon. It reinforces the discipline that defines samurai culture, the attention to detail that separates the warrior class from others in society. Most importantly, it serves as a form of moving meditation, a quiet time of focus and contemplation that prepares your mind for the day ahead. With your morning meal completed and your equipment inspected, you prepare to venture outside into the awakening world. The village begins to show signs of life as other farmers and craftspeople begin their own daily routines. Smoke rises from cooking fires in homes throughout the settlement, creating thin columns that dissipate into the morning air. The sound of wooden shutters being opened and closed punctuates the morning quiet, each sound marking another household's transition from sleep to wakefulness. Your farming tools await your attention in the small shed that stands adjacent to your home. The hoe, with its well-worn wooden handle and carefully maintained metal blade, feels familiar in your hands as you lift it from its resting place. The weight distribution, the smoothness of the grip polished by countless hours of use, the slight curve that has developed in the handle over time, all of these details speak to years of faithful service in the cultivation of your land. The sickle, essential for harvesting grain and cutting grass, hangs from its designated hook on the wall of the shed. Its curved blade has been sharpened regularly, maintaining the keen edge necessary for efficient work. The handle, like that of the hoe, bears the patina of long use, the wood darkened and smoothed by the oils from your hands and the passage of time. You test the blade's sharpness with a careful touch, noting that it will serve you well for another day's work. Other tools complete your agricultural arsenal: a wooden rake for gathering cut grain, a bamboo basket for carrying harvested crops, various smaller implements for specific tasks throughout the growing season. Each tool has its place and purpose, and you maintain them with the same attention to detail that you give to your katana. In your world, the distinction between warrior and farmer is not one of different values, but of different expressions of the same fundamental principles of discipline, skill, and dedication. The walk to your fields takes you through the heart of the village, past homes and workshops where your neighbors pursue their own livelihoods. The blacksmith's forge already glows with the heat of his first fire of the day, and you can hear the rhythmic striking of hammer on anvil as he works some piece of iron into useful shape. The sound provides a steady counterpoint to your footsteps on the packed earth of the village path. You pass the home of the village carpenter, where the sweet scent of fresh wood shavings mingles with the morning air. Through the open front of his workshop, you can see him bent over his workbench, using a plane to smooth a board to perfect flatness. The tool produces long curling shavings that fall to the floor in pale ribbons, each one a testament to his skill and patience. His movements are economical and precise, born of years of practice and an understanding of wood that goes beyond mere technical knowledge. The village temple stands at the intersection of two main paths, its modest architecture speaking to the practical piety of rural life. The building is not grand in the manner of urban temples, but it serves its purpose with quiet dignity. A few early worshippers climb the stone steps to the main hall, their footsteps soft on the worn stone. The sound of a wooden bell being struck drifts from within the building, marking the beginning of morning prayers. Your fields lie beyond the village proper, accessible by a path that winds between other plots of cultivated land. The transition from settlement to farmland is gradual rather than abrupt, with kitchen gardens and small plots giving way to larger expanses of rice paddies and dry fields. The landscape reveals the accumulated labor of generations, as terraces carved into hillsides and irrigation channels dug by hand speak to the patient work of countless farmers who have shaped this land to human purposes. The rice paddies stretch before you in the morning light, their surfaces still and reflective, like scattered mirrors across the landscape. The water level in each paddy has been carefully maintained, providing the perfect environment for the growing rice plants. Young shoots emerge from the water in neat rows, their bright green color vivid against the dark mud of the paddy floors. Each plant represents not just potential food, but the culmination of careful planning, precise timing, and constant attention to detail. The irrigation system that feeds these paddies is a marvel of practical engineering, developed over centuries of trial and refinement. Water from a nearby stream is diverted through a series of channels, each one carefully graded to ensure proper flow. Wooden gates allow farmers to control the water level in individual paddies, raising or lowering it as the growing season demands. The maintenance of this system requires cooperation among all the farmers who depend on it, fostering a sense of community responsibility that extends beyond individual property lines. You begin your day's work with an inspection of your fields, walking the raised paths that separate one paddy from another. Your trained eye scans each plot for signs of problems, areas where the water level might be too high or too low, places where weeds have gained a foothold among the rice plants, evidence of insect damage or disease that might require immediate attention. This daily survey is as important as any single task you might perform, as early detection of problems can mean the difference between a successful harvest and disaster. The first task of the day involves adjusting water levels in several paddies. The wooden gates that control flow are simple but effective mechanisms, consisting of boards that can be raised or lowered to regulate the passage of water. You wade into the paddy, your feet sinking into the soft mud as you make your way to the gate. The water is cool against your legs, and small fish dart away from your movement, their silver forms flashing in the morning light. Raising the gate requires careful attention to the flow of water. Too much adjustment too quickly can create turbulence that disturbs the young plants, while too little means the water level will not reach the desired height. You make small adjustments, watching as the water begins to flow more freely from the upper channel into your paddy. The sound of moving water provides a gentle background to your work, a liquid murmur that speaks of life and growth. The mud beneath your feet tells its own story as you work. The rich, dark soil has been built up over years of careful cultivation, enriched with organic matter from previous harvests, and maintained through practices passed down through generations. You can feel the fertility of this earth, the potential it holds for supporting life and producing the grain that will sustain your family and community through the coming year. Moving from paddy to paddy, you repeat this process of water management, each adjustment based on your assessment of current conditions and your experience with the particular characteristics of each plot. Some areas retain water better than others, requiring less frequent attention. Others, perhaps located on slightly higher ground or with more porous soil, need more regular monitoring to maintain proper levels. The work progresses with the methodical pace that characterizes most farming tasks. There is no urgency in the sense of emergency, but rather the steady pressure of numerous small tasks that must be completed in their proper sequence and timing. The rhythm of this work has its own satisfaction, the sense of participating in cycles of growth and harvest that connect you to the fundamental processes of life itself. As you work, other farmers begin to appear in the adjacent fields, each beginning their own version of the day's necessary tasks. Greetings are exchanged across the narrow paths that separate one family's land from another, but the communication is brief and practical. There is work to be done, and the morning hours are precious for their coolness and the energy that comes with the beginning of the day. The sun climbs higher in the sky, and you begin to feel its warmth on your back as you bend to examine the rice plants more closely. The young shoots show healthy growth, their leaves bright green and full of vigor. You count the tillers emerging from each plant, noting with satisfaction that the rice is developing according to expectations for this stage of the growing season. Each plant will eventually produce multiple stems, each stem capable of bearing a head of grain at harvest time. Weeding becomes the next priority, as you identify several areas where unwanted plants have established themselves among the rice. These interlopers compete with the crop for nutrients, water, and sunlight, reducing the ultimate yield if left unchecked. The work of removing them requires patience and care, as disturbing the rice plants too much can set back their growth significantly. You wade into the paddy again, this time carrying a simple weeding tool designed specifically for work in flooded fields. The implement allows you to sever weeds below the water line while minimizing disturbance to the surrounding rice plants. The work is methodical rather than strenuous, requiring more attention and precision than physical strength. Each weed must be identified, isolated, and removed without damaging the nearby rice. The repetitive nature of this task creates its own form of meditation. Your hands and eyes work in practiced coordination while your mind settles into the rhythm of the work. The sound of water lapping gently against the rice stems, the occasional call of a bird flying overhead, the distant sound of other farmers working in their own fields, all of these create a tapestry of rural sounds that accompanies your labor. As the morning progresses, you move systematically through your fields, addressing the various small tasks that make up the daily routine of rice cultivation. In one area, you notice that soil has been washed away from around the base of some plants, requiring you to carefully redistribute mud to provide proper support for their roots. In another location, you discover that a small breach in the paddy wall has allowed water to escape, necessitating a repair to maintain proper water levels. The repair work involves mixing mud and organic matter to create a patch that will seal the breach effectively. You gather material from areas where it can be spared, working it with your hands until it reaches the proper consistency. The mixture must be neither too wet nor too dry, achieving a balance that will allow it to adhere properly while maintaining structural integrity as it dries and settles. Your hands work the mud with practiced skill, feeling for the right texture and consistency that will ensure a lasting repair. This knowledge comes from years of experience, an understanding of soil and water that cannot be learned from books, but must be acquired through direct contact with the materials and conditions of farming life. Your fingers can detect subtle differences in clay content, organic matter, and moisture that determine how the mud will behave once applied to the paddy wall. The application of the patch requires careful attention to ensure proper adhesion and shaping. You smooth the material into place, eliminating air pockets that might allow water to penetrate and cause the repair to fail. The work must be thorough without being excessive, as too much handling can actually weaken the patch by overworking the material. Mid-morning brings a brief pause in your work as you stand and stretch, relieving muscles that have been bent to various tasks for several hours. The sun has gained strength, and you can feel its warmth beginning to build toward the heat that will characterize the middle portion of the day. The morning coolness still lingers in shaded areas, but the open fields now reflect the growing intensity of daylight. From your vantage point among the rice paddies, you can survey the broader landscape of agricultural activity. Other farmers work their own plots with the same methodical attention you have been giving to yours. The pattern of human activity across the fields creates a sense of shared purpose, a community effort directed toward the common goal of successful harvest. Each family works their own land, but the success of the entire community depends on everyone fulfilling their responsibilities. The village itself remains visible in the distance, smoke from cooking fires marking the locations of homes where families prepare their midday meals. Children can be seen playing between houses, their voices carrying faintly across the fields. The sounds of daily life, dogs barking, roosters crowing, the occasional call of one villager to another, create a backdrop of familiar comfort that accompanies your work. You return to your tasks with renewed focus, moving to a section of your fields where dry crops grow alongside the rice paddies. Here, vegetables and grains that do not require flooding create their own patterns of cultivation and care. The soil preparation for these crops requires different techniques, and the timing of planting and harvesting follows its own calendar, distinct from that of rice cultivation. The vegetable plots show neat rows of plants in various stages of growth. Radishes, with their broad leaves and promising swellings at soil level, indicate that harvest time approaches for this crop. You make a mental note to begin pulling the largest specimens within the next few days before they become too woody for good eating. The timing of vegetable harvests requires attention to subtle changes in plant appearance and size, as the window for optimal quality can be quite narrow. Beans climb their supporting poles in another section, their vines twisting around the bamboo supports, with the instinctive efficiency of plants that have evolved to take advantage of vertical growing opportunities. The flowers that will eventually become pods show as small white dots among the green foliage, promising a harvest that will provide both fresh eating and dried stores for the winter months ahead. Your attention turns to cultivation tasks that will improve growing conditions for these dry crops. The soil between the rows has become compacted from previous walking and watering, requiring loosening to allow proper air and water penetration to the plant roots. You select the appropriate hoe for this work, one with a narrow blade that can work effectively in the confined space between planted rows. The hoeing work progresses with the same methodical approach you bring to all your farming tasks. Each stroke of the tool breaks up compacted soil and severs young weeds before they can establish themselves strongly enough to compete seriously with the crop plants. The depth of cultivation must be carefully controlled to avoid damaging crop roots while still achieving the desired soil improvement. The repetitive nature of hoeing allows your mind to wander while your body continues the familiar motions. You think about the timing of upcoming tasks, the condition of various crops, the weather patterns that will influence your work in the coming days and weeks. This mental planning is as important as the physical work you perform, as successful farming requires constant attention to timing and sequence of operations. As you work your way down the rows, you notice variations in plant growth that speak to differences in soil conditions, drainage, or other factors that affect crop development. Some plants show the vigorous growth and deep green color that indicates optimal conditions, while others appear slightly stressed or slower in their development. These observations will inform your decisions about fertilization, irrigation, and other management practices. The sun continues its climb toward the zenith, and you begin to feel the increasing heat on your back and shoulders. The physical exertion of farming work generates its own warmth, and the combination of solar heating and muscular activity makes you increasingly aware of the approaching midday heat. You adjust your pace accordingly, working efficiently but without unnecessary haste that might lead to exhaustion in the hotter hours ahead. Water becomes an important consideration as the day warms. You carry a ceramic bottle filled with cool water from your well, and you pause periodically to drink from it. The water tastes of earth and minerals, carrying the flavor of the deep aquifer from which it was drawn. Each drink provides not just hydration but a moment of rest and reflection on the work completed and that which lies ahead. The approach of midday is marked by changes in the behavior of birds and insects that share the agricultural landscape. Birds that were active in the cooler morning hours begin to seek shade, their songs becoming less frequent as they conserve energy for the afternoon activities. Insects adjust their own patterns of activity, with some species becoming more active as temperatures rise while others retreat to cooler microenvironments. You make a final tour of your morning's work areas, checking on the water levels you adjusted earlier, and noting how the various tasks you completed have affected the overall condition of your crops. The weeded areas already show signs of reduced competition, with rice plants appearing more vigorous in the absence of competing vegetation. The repaired paddy walls hold water at the desired levels, confirming that your patchwork was effective. The walk back toward your home takes you again through the village, now showing the increased activity of mid-morning life. Children old enough to help with family work can be seen assisting with various tasks, learning through participation the skills they will need as adults. Their efforts may be less efficient than those of experienced adults, but their involvement serves the dual purpose of providing useful help while transmitting knowledge and work habits to the next generation. The village carpenter has progressed in his morning's work, and you can see that the board he was planing earlier has been joined by others in preparation for some larger construction project. The rhythmic sound of his playing continues, creating the steady background noise of productive labor that characterizes much of village life. Wood shavings have accumulated around his workbench, creating aromatic piles that will later serve as kindling for cooking fires. The blacksmith's forge glows more intensely now, and you can see him working a piece of iron that glows orange with heat. His hammer strikes the metal with practiced precision, each blow shaped by years of experience and an intimate knowledge of how heated iron responds to force and pressure. Sparks fly from his work, tiny stars of light that fade quickly in the morning air. The sound of metal on metal provides a counterpoint to the carpenter's plane, creating a symphony of industrial activity that speaks to the self-sufficiency of rural communities. As you approach your home, you notice that your neighbor is working in her kitchen garden, tending to the vegetables that supplement her family's diet. She looks up from her work to offer a greeting, and you exchange brief comments about the weather and the condition of your respective crops. These casual interactions serve to maintain the social connections that bind rural communities together, providing opportunities to share information and offer mutual support when needed. Your own kitchen garden requires attention, and you spend time examining the vegetables you grow close to your home for convenience and security. The proximity of these crops to your dwelling makes them easier to water, harvest, and protect from both animal and human threats. The plants here tend to be those requiring more frequent attention or those producing crops that are best used immediately after harvest. Leafy greens show vigorous growth in the rich soil of your kitchen garden, their broad leaves promising fresh additions to upcoming meals. You harvest some of the outer leaves from several plants, selecting those that have reached full size, while leaving the growing centers to continue producing. This selective harvesting extends the productive life of each plant while providing a continuous supply of fresh vegetables for your table. The herbs growing near your kitchen door fill the air with their distinctive fragrances as you brush past them. These plants serve both culinary and medicinal purposes, their leaves and seeds providing flavoring for food and remedies for minor ailments. You pinch a few leaves from different plants, crushing them slightly between your fingers to release their essential oils and assess their current potency and flavor. The midday meal requires preparation, and you begin the process of selecting and preparing ingredients for the food that will sustain you through the afternoon's work. Rice again forms the foundation of the meal, as it does for most eating occasions throughout your day. The grain you select comes from your own previous harvest, stored in carefully sealed containers that protect it from moisture and pests. The rice preparation follows the same careful attention to proportion and technique that characterizes all your activities. The grain is rinsed until the water runs clear, removing surface starch that would otherwise create a gummy texture in the finished product. The amount of water added to the cooking pot reflects your knowledge of this particular batch of rice and how it behaves during cooking. While the rice cooks over your small fire, You prepare accompanying dishes that will provide variety and additional nutrition to your meal. The vegetables harvested from your kitchen garden require minimal preparation, their freshness and quality needing little enhancement beyond simple cooking methods that preserve their natural flavors and nutrients. A simple soup provides warmth and liquid to complement the solid foods of your meal. The base consists of water in which dried fish has been simmered to extract flavor and nutrients. This dashi provides a foundation of umami taste that enhances all the other flavors in the meal. The preparation of good dashi requires attention to timing and temperature, as excessive heat or prolonged cooking can create bitter flavors that overwhelm the subtle fish taste. Into the dashi, you add pieces of the vegetables harvested from your garden, creating a soup that is both nourishing and economical. The vegetables cook quickly in the flavorful broth, retaining some texture while absorbing the taste of the fish-flavored liquid. A small amount of miso paste, stirred in just before serving, adds depth and complexity to the soup's flavor profile. The meal is completed with pickled vegetables from your stores, providing the acidic contrast that balances the mild flavors of rice and soup. These preserved vegetables represent work performed during previous harvest seasons, when abundant fresh produce was transformed through fermentation and salt curing into foods that could be stored for extended periods. The labor invested in food preservation during times of abundance pays dividends throughout the year in the form of varied and flavorful additions to daily meals. You eat your midday meal in the quiet comfort of your home, taking time to appreciate the flavors and textures while allowing your body to rest from the morning's physical exertion. The rice provides complex carbohydrates that will fuel the afternoon's work, while the vegetables and soup contribute vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients necessary for health and energy. The meal represents not just sustenance, but the culmination of your own labor in growing, harvesting, preserving, and preparing the food. The brief rest after eating allows you to consider the afternoon's priorities and plan the sequence of tasks that will occupy the remainder of your working day. The increasing heat will influence your choice of activities, favoring those that can be performed in shade or that do not require the most strenuous physical effort. The hottest part of the day is often best used for tasks that involve planning, maintenance, or preparation rather than heavy labor. As you prepare to return to your fields, you take a moment to check on your farming tools, ensuring that they remain in good condition for the afternoon's work. The hoe blade shows some accumulation of soil from the morning's cultivation work, and you clean it carefully to prevent the buildup of material that could interfere with its effectiveness. The wooden handle remains smooth and solid, showing no signs of loosening or cracking that might lead to failure during use. Your sickle receives similar attention, its curved blade wiped clean of any plant material or moisture that might promote rust. The sharpness of the edge remains good, but you make a mental note to spend some time with a whetstone in the evening to maintain the keen edge that makes cutting work efficient and safe. Dull tools require more force to accomplish the same work, leading to fatigue and increased risk of accidents. The afternoon sun beats down with increasing intensity as you make your way back to your fields. The landscape shimmers with heat waves, and the sounds of insect life become more prominent as various species adjust their activity patterns to take advantage of the warmer temperatures. Cicadas begin their rhythmic calling, creating a pulsing wall of sound that will characterize the hottest part of the day. Your approach to afternoon work takes into account the challenging conditions created by heat and bright sunlight. Tasks that require prolonged exposure to direct sun are scheduled for early or late in the day, while the hottest hours are reserved for work that can be performed in whatever shade is available or for activities that do not require sustained physical exertion. Irrigation becomes a priority as you observe the effects of increasing solar radiation on your crops. Water levels in the rice paddies remain stable due to their design, but vegetables growing in dry soil begin to show signs of stress as moisture evaporates from leaves and soil surface. The timing of watering becomes critical, as water applied during the hottest part of the day can actually harm plants if it creates scalding conditions on leaf surfaces. You begin the process of irrigation in areas where shade provides some relief from direct solar radiation. The water you apply comes from the same source that feeds your rice paddies, diverted through smaller channels and applied with careful attention to soil conditions and plant needs. Each vegetable variety has its own requirements for soil moisture, and your watering technique reflects these differences. The sound of water flowing through irrigation channels and being applied to thirsty plants provides a cooling psychological effect, even as it addresses the practical needs of your crops. The sight of water soaking into dry soil and the smell of moisture rising from heated earth create sensory experiences that reinforce the life-giving importance of this resource in agricultural systems. As you work your way through the irrigation tasks, you maintain awareness of your own physical condition and the effects of heat and exertion on your body. Regular drinks from your water bottle help maintain hydration, while periodic rests in whatever shade is available prevent the accumulation of heat stress that could lead to exhaustion or heat-related illness. The work progresses more slowly than it would during cooler parts of the day, but the methodical pace allows you to maintain the quality and thoroughness that characterize all your farming activities. Each plant receives the attention it needs. Each irrigation channel is properly maintained. Each task is completed with the same care you would give during more comfortable working conditions. The village appears quiet during the hottest part of the day, with most residents seeking shelter from the intense solar radiation. Cooking fires are allowed to die down to minimize additional heat production, and non-essential activities are postponed until later in the day, when temperatures begin to moderate. This collective response to environmental conditions reflects the accumulated wisdom of generations who have learned to work with natural cycles rather than against them. Wildlife also adjusts to the heat, with birds seeking shade and reducing their activity levels. Insects that are active during hot weather become more prominent, while those that prefer cooler conditions retreat to protected microenvironments. The agricultural landscape takes on a different character during these hours, with heat-adapted species dominating the active ecosystem, while others wait for more favorable conditions. Your own adaptation to working in heat reflects both physical conditioning developed over years of agricultural labor and learned behaviors that minimize heat stress while maintaining productivity. Your clothing provides protection from direct solar radiation while allowing air circulation that promotes cooling through evaporation. Your work pace balances the need to accomplish necessary tasks with the imperative to avoid heat exhaustion. The gradual movement of shadows across your fields marks the passage of time more clearly than any timepiece, and you use these natural indicators to pace your work and plan the sequence of afternoon activities. As shadows begin to lengthen slightly, you know that the peak heat of the day has passed, and that conditions will gradually become more favorable for sustained physical labor. The late afternoon, brings opportunities to address tasks that were postponed during the hottest hours. The sun, while still intense, no longer carries the crushing weight of midday heat, and a slight breeze begins to stir the air, providing some relief from the accumulated thermal load of the day. These improving conditions allow you to return to more strenuous activities while maintaining the careful pace that prevents overexertion. You return to work in your rice paddies, where the standing water provides a moderated microclimate that is several degrees cooler than the surrounding dry land. Wading into the flooded fields brings immediate relief to your legs and feet, while the reflection of sunlight from the water surface reduces the direct heat load on your upper body. The work you can accomplish in these conditions includes tasks that were impractical during the peak heat hours. Transplantation of rice seedlings becomes possible again as conditions moderate. The young plants you started in protected seedbeds have reached the size where they can be moved to their permanent growing locations in the main paddies. This work requires careful handling to avoid damaging the delicate root systems while ensuring proper spacing and depth in their new locations. Each seedling must be extracted from the seedbed with enough root material to ensure successful establishment, but without including excess soil that would make handling difficult and waste valuable growing medium. Your fingers work with practiced efficiency, feeling for the right grip that allows clean separation of individual plants from the crowded conditions of the seedbed. The transplantation process requires you to work bent over in the paddy, creating small holes in the mud with your fingers and settling each seedling into its new location with proper spacing and depth. The work is repetitive and demanding on your back and legs, but the cooler conditions of late afternoon make it bearable for the extended periods required to complete significant areas. As you work, you maintain awareness of the proper spacing between plants that will allow each one adequate room for growth, while maximizing the use of available space. Too close spacing results in competition and reduced yields, while excessive spacing wastes productive capacity. The optimal arrangement reflects generations of accumulated knowledge about rice growing requirements and techniques. The muddy water of the paddy creates a cooling effect on your hands and arms as you work, providing relief from the accumulated heat of the day. The sensation of working with soil and water connects you directly to the fundamental processes of agriculture, reinforcing your role as a facilitator of natural growth cycles rather than a dominator of natural systems. Progress in transplantation work can be measured by the neat rows of newly established seedlings that mark your passage through the paddy. Each row represents dozens of individual plants, each one a potential source of grain for the coming harvest. The cumulative effect of this detailed work will be evident in the months ahead as the transplanted rice grows and develops toward maturity. The late afternoon light begins to take on the golden quality that precedes evening, and you use this changing illumination to assess the condition of your crops with the different perspective that angled sunlight provides. Problems that might not be visible in the harsh overhead light of midday become apparent when shadows highlight variations in plant height, color, or density. In one section of your rice paddies, you notice an area where plant growth appears less vigorous than the surrounding crop. The difference is subtle but consistent, suggesting some underlying problem that requires investigation. You make your way to this area for closer examination, wading through the intervening paddies with care to avoid disturbing the growing plants. The affected area shows signs of poor drainage, despite the flooded conditions, with water that appears stagnant rather than flowing gently through the paddy system. This condition can lead to root problems and reduced plant vigor as oxygen levels in the water become inadequate for healthy root function. The solution requires adjustment of the water flow pattern to ensure proper circulation throughout the affected area. You trace the water flow through the irrigation system serving this area, looking for blockages or structural problems that might impede proper circulation. A partially blocked inlet channel becomes apparent as the source of the problem, with debris that has accumulated over time, reducing the flow rate to levels inadequate for maintaining water quality in the downstream paddies. The repair work involves clearing the accumulated debris and reshaping the channel to restore proper flow characteristics. You use simple hand tools to remove the material blocking water movement, working carefully to avoid creating erosion problems that might cause larger issues in the future. As the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, you complete the final tasks of your working day. The irrigation channels flow freely once again, carrying life-giving water to your rice paddies in the gentle circulation that will maintain healthy growing conditions through the night and into tomorrow. The transplanted seedlings stand in neat rows, their roots already beginning to establish themselves in the rich mud of their new homes. You gather your tools with the same methodical care that has characterized all your activities throughout the day. The hoe is cleaned of soil and mud, its blade wiped dry to prevent rust during the night hours. The sickle receives similar attention, its curved edge cleared of plant material and moisture. Each tool is returned to its designated place in your storage shed, ready for tomorrow's use but protected from the elements that could cause deterioration. The walk back to your home takes you through fields, now bathed in the golden light of late afternoon, where other farmers complete their own versions of the day's final tasks. Greetings are exchanged across the narrow paths that separate family plots, brief acknowledgments of shared labor and common purpose that reinforce the bonds of rural community life. Your home welcomes you with the familiar comfort of walls and roof that have sheltered you through countless cycles of work and rest. The evening meal awaits preparation, and you begin the process of selecting ingredients and planning the cooking that will provide nourishment and satisfaction after the day's physical exertion. Rice once again forms the foundation, accompanied by vegetables from your gardens and perhaps a small portion of fish or other protein to complete the nutritional balance. As darkness settles over the village and the sounds of daytime activity give way to the quieter rhythms of evening, you tend to your weapons with the same attention you have given to your farming tools. The katana emerges from its scabbard for cleaning and inspection, its steel gleaming in the lamplight as you ensure its continued readiness for whatever duties may arise. The blade receives a light coating of oil to prevent rust, applied with a clean cloth in long, smooth strokes that follow the grain of the steel. This maintenance ritual connects you to the warrior traditions of your ancestors, while acknowledging the practical reality of your current life as a farmer. The sword represents honor and duty, but it rests beside tools that represent sustenance and survival. Your evening meal, simple but satisfying, provides time for reflection on the day's accomplishments and consideration of tomorrow's priorities. The rice tastes of earth and water, sunshine and human labor, carrying within its simple grains the essence of the agricultural cycle that governs your life. The vegetables add color and variety, their flavors speaking of careful cultivation and timely harvest. As you prepare for sleep, folding out your futon on the familiar tatami mats, the sounds of the village settling into nighttime quiet provide a backdrop of peaceful community life. Dogs bark occasionally in the distance, their calls answered by others in a chain of communication that spans the settlement. The night sounds of insects and small animals create a gentle symphony that speaks of a world continuing its ancient rhythms beyond the boundaries of human activity. Your final thoughts before sleep turn to the cycles of growth and harvest that give meaning and purpose to your daily labor. Tomorrow will bring its own tasks and challenges, its own opportunities to participate in the fundamental processes of sustaining life through agriculture. The rice seedlings you transplanted today will grow a little taller, the vegetables in your gardens will develop toward harvest, and the endless cycle of cultivation and care will continue as it has for countless generations before you. In this quiet moment between wakefulness and sleep, you are connected to all those who have worked the land before you, and all those who will continue this work after you are gone. Your individual efforts join with those of countless others in the great human project of coaxing sustenance from soil and seed, water and sunshine. The samurai farmer sleeps peacefully, knowing that honor lies not only in the way of the sword, but in the patient, daily care of the earth that feeds us all. And with that gentle rhythm of rural life carrying you toward rest, we too can let go of the day's concerns, allowing our minds to drift like morning mist over rice paddies, finding peace in the simple, eternal patterns of growth and harvest, work and rest, day and night. Sleep well, knowing that somewhere in the world, the cycles continue, patient and reliable as the turning of seasons themselves.